Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams and he's Chris King.
Yes.
And as you can see, it's just Parlays because we just put it up there. So there you go.
Just in case you were, confused.
Right. In case if you thought you turned into the Gong Show, you're wrong. You're here. Okay. So Christopher, my friend, good night last night. Interesting one. James, I don't know if James is here yet, but I'm sure he will be. Robert Morris out in Moon Township, right outside of right outside Pittsburgh International Airport, did not have the night that James was thinking they were going to have.
Well, no, I mean, we warned him that, you had to contain Antoine Davis and Detroit Mercy, and Detroit, Davis went for 26, Detroit Mercy went 79-62. It's one of those times when you don't hate to say I told you so, but since he was all excited about how Belmont didn't cover the other day, I guess turnabout's fair play. And, except I didn't bet on Belmont to cover the line. I just thought that Belmont would win the game. He actually put money on Robert Morris on the money line. So I feel bad for him in that front. But, when you say a team doesn't deserve to lay points because they're on the road and because they're 4-11 on the road, that doesn't take into consideration who they've played.
Right.
Robert Morris was only 4-6 at home. I mean, what makes them so great?
Well, when you're under 500 at home, no, there's no. Great is not a word that enters the vocabulary in that particular situation.
And Joaquin's here. John's excited because it's IUPUI Day. John, I'm wondering did you go and try out to be a member of the Jaguars down the stretch? Are you going to fly out there and fly out to Indianapolis, play for Matt Crenshaw's team? They've got 7 games left before the tournament will inevitably be bounced out in the first round. But, if you haven't heard, IUPUI needs players. If you want to make up that you're attending the school there and you want to play, feel free because they're down to like 6 guys.
They've got, from what we understand, right? I mean, it's like a casting call for a movie. So, you want to go out there and play. Hey, James, just out of curiosity, what position would you play if you played at IUPUI? Are you a point guard? Are you a shooting guard? Are you what kind of forward, center? What do you? All right, so I'll tell you what. We'll make that a little bit of a poll question for the gang right there. First of all, smash the like button and hit subscribe so that James understands that we're taking care of our business here, because we want you to like us and subscribe us. We're likable people, so by all means. Speaking of likable people, we have a lot of likable people, and many of them are involved with our friends at good old Caesars. Now, Caesars Sportsbook has a really cool offer for those of you who, like us, like winners and whiners, okay? And as you know, only Caesars Sportsbook can give you the kind of rewards that Caesars has, all right? So here's the deal. Deal's pretty simple. They're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and use our promo code, which is Windsor, okay, Winners. So new signups, they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and use that promo code Winners, okay? All the information in the show box below. And remember that the great offers we talk about here on Winners and Whiners, you must be 21 years of age to play, and always, always, always wager responsibly, okay?
Well, there you go, Jim. Breaking news coming to us from unknown entity. James Harden was traded today. Traded just moments ago to the Philadelphia 76ers. In exchange, you'll see none other than Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, and a couple of first-round draft picks going back to Brooklyn.
Whoa. That's a lot for James Harden.
Is it really? I mean, Drummond is on the back end of his career. He hasn't necessarily been productive.
So they're basically dumping dead money there.
Yeah, they probably had to come up with some way to equalize it. I know that they originally wanted Curry or Tyrese Maxey, and they backed or Philadelphia wouldn't deal him. So then they were talking about Matisse Thybulle. Apparently they backed off of that too. But what kind of game shape is Ben Simmons in at this point? We're 50-some games into the season. He hasn't been on the floor all year. How is he going to contribute to this team down the stretch?
My guess is that what they're hoping to do with him, and it's just a guess, is to get him into playoff shape and, hopefully get him in a position where he will contribute playoff-wise. We're toward the end of the stretch drive because you're right. It's not going to do him much good right now. I hope they threw in at least a 12-pack of Jimmy's wonderful Philadelphia cheesesteaks to go along with that trip to Brooklyn. But
my concern is this. You went from a guy that can space the floor and that can shoot from the perimeter to a guy that can't shoot outside of about 8 feet.
Yeah, but they've got shooters in Brooklyn. Maybe
but they don't have enough. I mean, I guess Curry can take over part of that from what Harden left. But, now are you going to move Irving to shooting guard and let Simmons run the point? Are you going to play Simmons in a different role since he's, at 6'8", 6'10"?
Yeah, you can't run Simmons at the point. So forget that. That's not going to happen. He's got to play. Well, he's got to play soft forward. He's got to play the 4, right? Or the 3.
Well, if he plays the 3, then what? Is Durant the 4?
Well, I guess if you're going to have Ben Simmons and Durant on court at the same time, then you got to move Ben to Ben will play 3 and
you don't have to make Simmons the power forward because he has no shooting range.
We could, and he does rebound, so there's that.
And does this deal help the 76ers?
No. Well, to an extent, yeah, it gives him James Harden. But how much better are they?
That's what I'm curious about because this is now the second team that Harden's forced himself off of in the last couple of years.
Right.
So is he going to be a malcontent now in Philadelphia if things don't go his way there? Obviously, he's due to be a free agent at the end of the season. Was an extension already talked about with Daryl Morey and the organization? I mean, there's a lot of questions there if you're Philadelphia.
Well, yeah. Part of Harden's situation is he had a no-trade clause. Okay?
Right.
He had to approve where he went. I guess he approved. I guess he said, well, I'm living in Jersey anyway. I can go 80 miles. It's not going to hurt me. So from that standpoint, I don't know. I mean, usually we don't find out. Well, first of all, they can't talk about an extension. They, meaning Philadelphia, couldn't talk about an extension to Harden if he's not on the team.
Right.
So that part of it, I don't know. Maybe, perhaps, they said to the general manager in Brooklyn and said, tell you what, here's the deal that we're offering, which would include a sign and perhaps work on a extension for this, that, and the other. Maybe that's what tipped him over the idea of saying, signing off on the deal. Ben Simmons would have driven to Brooklyn just to get out of Philadelphia, if nothing else, just to sit in the front row. So, yeah, I think I don't know. It's one of those trades where you just don't know what the heck's going to happen. It could turn out to be really good, or it could be a total flaming disaster.
In your opinion, which team do you think wins this deal?
I would rather have James Harden, personally.
I see, Joaquin says that the 76ers just got better with that trade. What do the rest of you guys think? Do you think that, Simmons is going to help the Nets, or do you think that Harden's going to push the 76ers over the top in the Eastern Conference? Which, I mean, let's face it, it's still a very clustered Eastern standings at this point.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Philly. I think Philly got the best end of this deal. They got Harden. They got rid of dead money, and they got rid of Ben Simmons. So,
well, I mean, yeah, it does get that headache issue out of the way. Other trades that happened this morning, Goran Dragic was traded from Toronto, so he'll go to San Antonio, who will probably buy him out, and then he'll become a free agent to sign somewhere else.
mhm.
And then there was a 4-team trade between the Bucks, the Kings, the Pistons, and the Clippers, where Serge Ibaka went to Milwaukee. Marvin Bagley III went to Detroit. Dante DiVincenzo went for the Kings, along with Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles. And Semi Ojeleye and Rodney Hood will go to the Clippers. Now, I don't really see what this deal does for the Clippers. Basically, you've got a couple of guys that were sitting out or playing off the bench. Same thing with Sacramento. They got 3 guys that, weren't really big contributors offensively for anybody. DiVincenzo, of course, was supposed to be a shooting guard of the future for Milwaukee. Then he had foot injuries. He's not really going to help Sacramento. Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles. Lyles was a busted lottery pick from several years ago. I don't see how he's going to help Sacramento. Marvin Bagley, I guess it's a change of venue for him, but you went from one bad team to another because now you're going to play in Detroit. Basically, the biggest piece that moved was Ibaka, and he's going to the Bucks, and that'll help Milwaukee's front court if Ibaka can get back to the way he played a few years ago. He hasn't done a whole lot this year for the Clippers.
True, but basically we had 4 teams? Is that?
Yeah.
So you had a 4-team trade of role players.
Pretty much.
So
the biggest piece was Bagley because he was the second or third overall pick a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
but it'll be interesting.
That's weird. I will tell you that the teams. Something tells me the Lakers they're gonna do something. I don't know what it is before the end of the day, but something. Brooklyn already pulled the trigger on that trade. I don't see how it makes Brooklyn better, but okay. I'll trust them on that. I don't know. Anybody else you're looking forward to seeing? You think? I mean, I think the Lakers are in panic mode. I honestly think they do.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers really disappointed me last night. They fell to Portland. And I mean, not only did you lose to Portland, you lost to a Portland team that didn't have Damian Lillard, that traded C.J. McCollum,
right? That's
traded Norman Powell. So they have a bunch of nobodies out there, and you still lose by 2. I mean, right. I keep hearing Westbrook might get traded, but who wants to take on that salary for a guy that, fires up more bricks than a Mason?
Well, I don't know what the Lakers cap space is, but money's not an issue with the Lakers. But we spent time yesterday talking about how Portland was, quote unquote, supposedly the team of the future and how they had disappointed. They go in, they beat the Lakers. I don't know. I mean, the trade the Clippers made moved the needle in no direction. And now you've got the situation with the Lakers. I just think the Lakers are going to make a splash move. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know.
I don't know if they can make a splash move. I mean, they're already over the cap substantially. I mean, you figure between Westbrook, James, and Davis, those cap numbers, you're eating up 75, 76% of the cap with those 3 guys alone.
Yeah.
So to do that, you're going to have to either move one of them, or you're going to have to move some combination of Talen Horton-Tucker and Kendrick Nunn and some other guys, because those are the only 2 other guys that are making more than the league minimum.
Right. Well, okay, we'll see. This is where creative cap situations become very important. So we'll see. But it's definitely.
There's no way in hell the Knicks will win anything if they get Russell Westbrook. What are they going to do? Trade Kemba Walker for him?
Who wants to trade?
Elliot says Westbrook to the Knicks, and the Knicks will win it all with it.
Elliot, we love you as a person, buddy, but I don't know what you're thinking. Okay, this is not. Have you seen the Knicks play?
And what do you mean? Great pick from young Scott Walker about Team USA. We talked about Team USA beating China yesterday on the show before Scott and Scott were even on the air. Right. They probably hadn't even thought about Olympic hockey.
We even gave you Nathan Chin, and that was before it happened.
Yeah, I mean that was Jim all over figure skating.
Yeah, that was my bonus figure skating pick. Come on,
James it wasn't luck. Robert Morris played terrible basketball, and that's why they lost by 17 points. And not only did they lose by 17, they lost by 17 at home. There's no luck involved. I warned you that for Robert Morris to win, they had to stop Antoine Davis.
They didn't.
When you don't stop the guy that leads the nation in scoring offense, you're probably going to lose. That's what happened. I mean, they were down 10 at the half. They didn't get any closer than 9 or 8 in the second half. So it's not like they made a sustained push. They allowed Detroit Mercy to shoot 50.9% from the floor. They were 13 to 31 from beyond the arc. Robert Morris turned the ball over 16 times. They lost the rebounding battle 35 to 22. I don't see any luck involved there. I mean, you basically got whipped.
It wasn't a good day, as we said, in Moon Township. All right. Speaking of changing to the hardwood, let's go to the college ranks, where we're going to see an interesting game tonight.
Well, hold on, Jim. I got one more thing to say, James.
Oh, go ahead.
As Jesse the Body Ventura would used to say, better lucky than good. In this case, Robert Morris was neither.
They were not lucky.
They're still 5-11 on the road, but they've won 2 in a row. Robert Morris is 4-7 at home.
Jeez. Let's go to Murray State and Tennessee State. This one.
Coming to you from the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, the OVC.
Now, Murray State, they've been on a roll. I mean, let's not take anything away from them. That's why there's such a prohibitive money line on this game, as you see. Murray State's 22-2 and 12-0 in the Ohio Valley. Tennessee State is 10-14 and 5-7 in the conference. Tennessee State 6-4 at home. Murray State 7-1 on the road. The Racers 11th in scoring offense at 81.2 points a game. They're 31st in rebounding with 39.5 boards a night. 21st in field goal percentage, 22nd in 2-point shooting, and 92nd in 3-point shooting. Meanwhile, Tennessee State struggles on the defensive end of the floor. They're 255th in scoring defense, 256th in field goal percentage defense, 263rd in 2-point defense. And, Murray State, they're not just an offensive team. They get it done on the defensive end of the floor. They're 31st in scoring defense at 62.9 points a game. That gives them a scoring differential of better than 18 points a night. 64th in field goal percentage defense at 40.8%, 23rd in 3-point defense. Tennessee State 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 on Thursday. They're 0-6-1 against the spread in their last 7 after a straight up win. And Murray State has won 7 straight in this series. That includes a 67-44 win at home in the first meeting this season on January 13th. Of those 7 wins, 5 of them have come by at least a dozen. I look for Murray State to take care of business, to go to 23-2 and put a real stranglehold atop the Ohio Valley Conference as they get another win here. And, with Belmont and Murray State playing tonight, more about that later, they could basically, depending on how things shake out, they could put a real hold on the game, because if Belmont wins, they and Morehead State would both be 11-2. They both 2 games behind Murray State in the conference. And everybody else is pretty much out of the running.
Well, as usual, the OVC is going to have – that might be a 2-bid league this year.
I mean, it should be. I mean, when you look at the records, you've got Murray State's 22-2, Belmont's 20-5, Morehead State's 19-6. I mean, you're not talking about any slouches in this conference by any stretch of the imagination. And, it'd be nice to see a mid-major conference like that get a couple teams as opposed to squeaking in the 8th or 9th team from the ACC like Syracuse, which we see all too often.
Right. Way too much. By the way, for those of you out there waiting for the madness to begin, March Madness, circle this because it's a rarity. March Madness will begin on St. Patrick's Day.
Woohoo.
That is what you call a total interesting day, all right? Already we know that people don't work on the first day of March Madness. Throw St. Patrick's Day in, and you're going to have...
It'll be even funnier if Notre Dame plays on that day.
Oh, no question about that. Okay. All right, so from Murray State and Tennessee State, we move on our college slate this afternoon.
You know what's coming, Jim.
Yep. IUPUI.
Yep, IUPUI versus Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, the Mastodons. Favored by a small truckload. In this one, we just talked about how basically you could suit up to play for IUPUI. And when I say you, I mean each and every one of our viewers. Just go out to Indianapolis, tell Matt Crenshaw you need a uniform.
You probably have to enroll first, but yeah, that shouldn't take long.
I mean, IUPUI 2-19 overall. Their 2 wins over Spalding and East-West University. They couldn't get North-South University on a short week. They're 0-10 in the Horizon. IPFW, they're 13-10 overall. They're 8-6 in the conference. The Mastodons are 10-2 at home. The Jaguars are 0-8 on the road. The Mastodons 142nd in scoring offense, 72.8 points per game, 107 field goal percentage, 51st in 2-point shooting, 36th threes per game with 9.3, and they're 11th in free throw shooting. Meanwhile, let's talk about the horrible numbers offensively for IUPUI, which can only get worse from here with getting guys out of the student body. It kind of reminds me of the 1991 movie, Jim. I don't know if you saw it, Necessary Roughness.
Yeah.
With the Texas State Armadillos,
right?
The death penalty, and having to get players out of the student body to play football.
Right.
That's basically what this is turning into. IUPUI dead last in scoring offense at 51.7 points a game. They're 355th in field goal percentage. They're 348th in threes per game. They're 353rd shooting twos. They're 337th shooting free throws. I don't think these guys could make 3 consecutive baskets in a layup drill against air. I'm not putting a ton of faith in them here. They're 4-17 against the spread in their last 21 after scoring less than 50 points. They're 1-5 in their last 6 on the road after 3 or more games at home. They're 0-4 in their last 4 after an ATS loss. And the Mastodons are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 at home against teams with a losing road record. John talking about how great IUPUI is, he said, quote, even my store purchase from IUPUI got lost in the mail.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. John, you're funny.
IUPUI, you're pretty much, as Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force used to say on the Scott Van Pelt show, your stone cold lock of the century of the week.
Right. Yeah, but how do you bet against a team called the Mastodons? I mean, seriously, that's one of the better, names of, of a mascot. That and what was it? The
Roos, Kansas City.
Yeah, the Roos, our favorite, team from Australia via Kansas, City. So the Mastodons.
I see John's asking about William and Mary taking on Towson. I know it's a lot of points, but let's face it, William and Mary has not been good this season. The Tribe coming in 5-19. They just are coming off a 22-point home loss to UNC Wilmington. Before that, they lost by 23 at home to Charleston. It doesn't really bode well for them here. Towson, as bad as they played against Northeastern, that was a road game. They're 17-7 overall. And if you look at some of their losses, they lost to some pretty good teams. They lost to Ohio State by 11. They lost to San Francisco by 10. They lost to Pitt, who's not a good team, but they still lost to them by 4. And that is a power conference team. You look at the first meeting on the road, Towson beat William and Mary 91-69 on January 17th. I think I would probably still lean towards Towson here, especially playing at home. They're 8-2 on the year. Pat Scarry has had a good season for the Tigers. Last year they struggled. They were just 4-14. Nice bounce back year for them. They're 8-2 at home. I think that Towson, should get the win here for William and Mary, who's just 1-9 on the road, to go with that 5-19 record.
Towson has a pretty good. Actually, it's a very beautiful new gym. It's been out. I think it's been open now for about 5 years or so, and they've got a good student body, good following. So.
I forgot that's still up in your neck of the woods there too, Jim.
Yeah, they're good. They're working to build a very good sports program, across the board from football to basketball And of course, without question, everybody in this neck of the woods, it's all about lacrosse, and so they got a decent lacrosse thing. So we're going to have when lacrosse season begins, we're going to have to, hone in on some lacrosse points here. All right, so let's go from
because he can tell us about lacrosse too.
That's true. Get Mike Tirico here. All right, so we're going from college to hockey, and got some good hockey for us tonight.
Yeah, we had a good night on the ice last night because we talked about Detroit and Philadelphia, how that game was going to pan out. We saw the Red Wings beat the Flyers 6-3 on the road. Who would have thought Detroit would score 6 goals? I sure as hell didn't. I thought it would be a lower scoring game, but you take what you can get. And we told you that Calgary would beat Vegas because Vegas was coming off the second game of back-to-back, and I think they forgot to get on the plane when they left Edmonton, because that game was over after 20 minutes, and they ended up losing 6-0.
Right.
So not a good night for Vegas. It was a good night for Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look to keep that momentum going. We'll start in Boston, where the Carolina Hurricanes, they were an underdog last night when I originally put this together, but the line moved quickly with some announcements late last night, early this morning. Carolina minus 140 in this one. Carolina's 31-10-3. Boston 26-15-3 on the year. Boston 15-9-1 at home, but the Hurricanes 15-6-2 on the road. It's going to be Frederick Anderson 24-6-1 with a 2.08 goals against, a 9.27 save percentage, and 1 shutout for Carolina. Linus Ullmark 16-6-1 with a 2.64 goals against and a 9.13 save percentage. For Boston, Carolina is 5th in the league in goals per game at 3.45. They lead the league in goals against at 2.41. Meanwhile, Boston's in the middle of the pack in both categories, 16th in goals per game, 14th in goals against. Carolina is 8-0 in their last 8 games with 1 day of rest. They're 22-6 in their last 28 on Thursday. They're 13-4 in their last 17 against teams with a winning record. They're 23-8 in their last 31 in the third game of a 3-game and 4-night situation. For Boston, of course, Tuukka Rask decided to hang up his skates yesterday. We wish him well. Even I wish him well, even though he was a pick of the Maple Leafs, never played for him because we traded him to get Andrew Raycroft, and that was a horrible deal. Also, Patrice Bergeron is out with an upper body injury. He sustained in a collision with Sidney Crosby Tuesday night. And Brad Marchand suspended for what seems like the 37th time in his career. He's suspended 6 games after his deliberate attempt to injure penalty at 19:35 in the third period against the upper punch Christian Jerry and then tried to hook him with his stick. Marchand's really got to figure out if he wants hockey or if he wants to go into ultimate fighting or something, because this is just ridiculous with the number of suspensions he's taken. It's impacting the team. Now you're minus 2/3 of the top line. Who's going to step up and help David Pastrnak over the next few games? Bottom line is, they don't get it done here. Carolina gets the win on the road to bounce back from those 2 losses earlier this week.
Yeah, I got 2 words for Marchand: anger management.
I don't even know if that would work.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Boston's going to have to figure something out real quick, or he's going to find out that he's another AB, But anyway.
Also, other hockey news, Jim, in the last couple of days, we've seen 2 more coaches get fired. Montreal fired Dominique Ducharme the other night. Martin St. Louis is going to take over on an interim basis. And this morning, the Edmonton Oilers, after losing back-to-back games to Vegas and Chicago, have fired Dave Tippett. I don't know if the issue is Tippett or if the issue is the fact that, they have mediocre goaltending.
Right.
I mean, let's face it, the Oilers, they started the year strong. They're 5-12-3 since December 3rd. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can blame that all on him. After all, at the time of his firing, Tippett's record with the Oilers, 95, 62, 14. There's a lot of guys who would kill to have that record that still have a job.
He might get a job before the season's over. There's no question about that. Yeah,
the 4th Tippett becomes the 4th Oilers coach to be fired since Connor McDavid was drafted 1st overall.
Well, though I haven't heard anything about Connor McDavid being, a coach killer. So
That's what I mean. But there's no continuity.
right,
You keep dumping guys because But the bottom line is they've gone the other way of what Vegas did when Vegas was an expansion team. Like we said, they built from the net out. Vegas is building or Edmonton's building from the front back, but they haven't gotten there yet.
right. It's like they haven't crossed the blue line.
Right, that's their problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did you say St. Louis got the job in Montreal?
Yeah, he's Martin St. Louis is the job has a job on an interim basis at least.
I'm very interested in seeing how that turns out.
I mean, it can't pan out any worse than what we've seen.
This is true. So
again, how much of that is Ducharme's fault, and how much was Marc Bergevin's fault with the team that he constructed? I mean, they gave Carey Price that huge extension a few years ago, and he's done nothing. Some of their best players that they had in the playoffs last year, Cole Caulfield, busted out, went to the minors, and none of these other guys have done anything.
No, but I'm just I've always thought he might be a decent coach if given the opportunity. So we'll see. Like you said, it's it's hard to do worse. So that's
exactly.
All right. From Carolina and Boston, we go to
Pittsburgh and Ottawa for the Canadian Tire Center, where there'll be roughly about 12 people in attendance. How that's different from a typical Ottawa game, there isn't. It's just, this is mandated by the government, so they can pan it off on that. The Penguins 28-11-8, Ottawa 16-22-4. The Senators coming in off that win over Carolina on Tuesday, where they led 4-0 after 2 periods, and then nearly let it slip away as it ended up 4-3. Ottawa actually 9-11 won at home. I mistyped that. That's what happens when you type late at night. Pittsburgh 15-5-3 on the road. Tristan Jarry will be back in net after getting beat up after the bell, so to speak, by Marchand. He's 24 with a 221 goals against, a 925 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Matt Murray 5-6-2 with a 2 goals against, a 914 save percentage, and 1 shutout for Ottawa. Pittsburgh is 9th in goals per game with 3.32. They're 4th in goals against at 2.57. Ottawa in the bottom 10 in both categories. They're 23rd in goals for, 22nd in goals against. The Penguins are 4-0 in their last 4 on the road. They're 10-2 in their last 12 as the road favorite. They're 8-2 in their last 10 against the East. Ottawa 15-37 in their last 52 against Metropolitan Division teams. They're 2-6 in their last 8 on Thursday. And the Penguins 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between these teams. Look for the Penguins to prevail and get the victory.
All right. Well, let's just keep on moving on. Let's go to the hardwood.
Right, and we're going to go to Detroit, where the Pistons host the red-hot Memphis Grizzlies. We talked about Memphis being on a roll of late. They've pushed right up there, right underneath Golden State and Phoenix in the Western Conference standings. Memphis 38-18 overall. The Pistons 12-42. Detroit 8-18 at home. So think about this: Memphis has 1.5 times as many road wins as the Pistons have victories this season.
I'm just looking at that money line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than the Murray State line that we talked about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's half the Murray State line almost.
Yeah. Memphis is 3rd in scoring offense at 113.1. They're 15th in field goal percentage, 23rd in three-point shooting. The Pistons, they're bad on both ends of the floor. We bear that out here. They're 25th in scoring defense, giving them 111.9 points a game. They're 27th in field goal percentage defense. They're 29th in three-point defense. Offensively, they're 29th in scoring offense. They're 29th in field goal percentage. They're 29th in three-point shooting. All I can say for Detroit is thank God for the Oklahoma City Thunder being worse than them, or else they'd really feel bad about themselves. Memphis 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 after scoring more than 125 points. 8-0 in their last 8 against teams with a losing streak record. Detroit 1-7-1 against the spread in their last 9 at home against teams with a road winning percentage better than 600. And they're 0-4 in their last 4 on 1 day of rest. I get it. There's supposed to be better days coming for Detroit.
Not tonight.
I don't know when those are. Could be 2026.
Right.
I'll just take a quick look and see if there's anybody injured that we need to know about, because I know that's always important, and especially with the trade deadline coming up here in about an hour. It never hurts to double check and see if there's anything going on everyone wants to be informed with. Let's see here. See if it wants to load. Let's see. Injury report says. There we go. Cade Cunningham is questionable. That's it for them because the other guys are either trade pending or down in the G League. Nobody cares about Dylan Brooks still out for Memphis. Killian Tilly out with a sore back now that he's a major factor. Neither is Xavier Tillman. So that will be it for the Pistons and Memphis. Memphis win. We've seen them out bad teams. This is another case.
Okay, the Grizz over Detroit, and just uniforms alone, they should win.
Elliot singing the Disco Inferno theme song. Everybody remembers Glenn Gilberti and WCW. Fortunately, nobody's seen him wrestling in quite a while, unless you're unlucky enough to see him at an independent show.
There you go. All right, moving on from.
We're going to have to see easy.
Yeah.
The Heat on the road to face the Pelicans. New Orleans, they played some good basketball, but then again, when you beat the Rockets twice in a row, that doesn't really move the needle a whole lot. But hey, New Orleans, they're in a position for a play-in spot in the playoff field right now. See if they can maintain that momentum. Unfortunately, they're playing a Miami team that's pretty good. Miami 35-20, New Orleans 22-32. Pelicans 12-13 at home. The Heat 17-14 on the road. What that means is Eric Spoelstra's got a whole bunch of home games coming, which can only help them in their chase for the top spot in the East. The Pelicans 26th in scoring offense at 105.9 points a game, 25th in field goal percentage, 27th in three-point shooting. Miami 5th in scoring defense, that should say. Stupid typo. 6th in field goal percentage defense, 15th in three-point defense. The Heat 7-2 in their last 10 against teams with a losing straight-up record. They're 8-3 in their last 11 following an ATS win. They're 7-3 in their last 10 on the road. The Pelicans 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 against teams with a winning percentage of 600. And the Heat 5-1 in the last 6 meetings in New Orleans. It's a small line. I'm surprised it's only 4.5 points. I'm just going to take a look and see if Miami's got 87 guys on the injury report. Caleb Martin questionable with a sore Achilles. Markieff Morris, of course, out. Victor Oladipo, of course, out. That's it for them. For New Orleans, Willie Hernan-Gomez in the health and safety protocols. Larry Nance Jr. is going to have knee surgery. He probably won't play this season again. And, of course, Zion is still out.
I don't think, honestly, that Spoelstra gets anywhere near the credit he should for his coaching ability.
I agree. I think he's an underrated coach because everybody wants to jump on Doc Rivers and, Steve Kerr. But, if you look at the talent that those guys have compared to the guys that Spoelstra's had to shuffle in and out of the lineup at such a regular basis, it's hard to say there's anybody that's done a better job than he has, considering, Butler's missed a whole bunch of time. Adebayo had thumb surgery, missed 6 weeks. Morris hasn't played since November. Oladipo hasn't played at all. There's a lot of guys like that should be in the mix.
Okay, I just got a trade. Orlando Magic have acquired center Bol, guard PJ Dozier, and a future second-round draft pick with cash considerations from Boston in exchange for a future projected second-round pick.
So Boston got those guys from Denver in that trade a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Neither one of those guys have played because Dozier, I think, is out for the year after a torn ACL. Bull had foot surgery.
Right.
So basically the Magic got a couple guys that aren't going to play
this year.
Yeah.
And they waived guard Michael Carter-Williams.
Well, he hasn't played all season.
Right. And they waived guard Etuan Moore.
Who hasn't played either.
Who hasn't played. So basically, let's call this one the MASH unit trade. Basically,
here's Orlando's plan. What we're going to do is we got all these guys that are hurt, so we're going to waive these guys that haven't played all season.
Right.
Then we're going to replace them with guys that aren't going to play. It's foolproof. We're going to command all the guys that can't play. Soon they're going to have an entire rotation of guys that are on injured reserve or the equivalent of it for basketball, where they're just listed as out with no timetable for return.
All right.
Kudos, Orlando, for that
for pulling that off.
Horrible trade, and messing up the transaction meter with a trade that means absolutely nothing.
There you go. Well, at least they got it in under the trade deadline.
Two guys.
Yeah. So, well, there'll be no rush to get them there, so that's not a problem. All right. Let's you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's do some prop bets from the upcoming Super Bowl.
Right. Now, the top five we talked about the other day, Evan McPherson going over 7.5 points. Obviously, he's kicked 12 field goals in the postseason, so it seems like a pretty safe bet there. Cooper Kupp, he's gone over his receiving total in 16 of 20 games this season. He's obviously, led the league in receiving yards, receptions, and receiving touchdowns. He hasn't been slowed down in the postseason. Cam Akers, under 63.5 rushing yards. Let's face it, he's done pretty much nothing since coming back from that Achilles. I don't expect him to do a whole lot here. The Bengals were actually pretty good against the run. They stopped Derrick Henry for the most part in the divisional round. Kansas City doesn't run the ball anyway, so they didn't really have to game plan for that. Matthew Stafford over 300 yards passing. He went over that mark against Tampa Bay and San Francisco in the last two games. I expect it to be a fairly competitive game, so he'll have to throw the ball here, getting over that mark. And the first quarter total being over 7.5 points. I think it'll be like 7-3, something like that at the end of one. The ones we added in, we just talked about McPherson kicking 12 field goals in 3 postseason games. I expect him to kick at least 2 in this to go over the mark. The Bengals in the red zone in the postseason, 4 touchdowns and 11 possessions in the red zone. And I'll tell you right now, if McPherson has to kick a bunch of 30-yard field goals, the Bengals are going to get stomped into oblivion because they need to put 7 points on the board when they get down there. I look for Stafford to throw 3 touchdowns. That goes off at plus 280 if he throws 3, not 3 or more, just 3. I expect Aaron Donald to have over 4.5 tackles at plus 100. I think that, the middle of that, they're going to cave in the middle of that Cincinnati offensive line, which will make it tough for Cincinnati to move the ball on the ground. Cam Akers' first rush attempt under 3.5 yards. I think if he gets more than 3.5 yards, the Rams will have a parade for him whether they win the Super Bowl or not because he's done pretty much nothing. And I expect Cooper Kupp to make the first reception in this game at plus 550. Of course, if the Bengals get the ball first, if you want to take a sleeper, look for Joe Mixon at plus 1,100. I could see Burrow dumping it off because he's going to have to do something because if that line clashes in, he's going to have to get rid of the ball or get beat senseless like he did by Tennessee.
Well, I mean, he got sacked 9 times against Tennessee, and Tennessee is nowhere near the kind of defense, at least in the front 7, that the Rams give you. I mean, you got Von Miller and you got Aaron Donald and
Leonard Floyd.
That's not good. That definitely is not a good thing. I saw an interesting prop bet this morning.
Was it about Gatorade?
No, it wasn't the Gatorade. It was the first quarter score. You just said it was approximately going to be 10 points, right? 7-3.
That's my prediction. It's going to be 7.
Okay. Yeah. And the thing was, what would be the players' numbers? Okay, Okay, so let's say the score is 25. Okay. So let's say that's what the prop is. I think the prop was 25 or 23. In the drive, the last 2 plays of the drive, would it be, the last play of the drive. So in other words, Stafford is number 9.
Right.
He's throwing to Cooper Kupp, who's number 10.
Right.
So that's 19. So that would be under the 23 that points. So it was an interesting little exercise in numbers, both on what the amount of points scored would be, and the jersey numbers of the people who would be involved in it. So that would be funny. Of course, if Aaron Donald picked the ball off, you get 90 scoring on the over in that situation. But that's what prop bets are for on Super Bowls. It gives you a lot of fun to mess around with.
And Roland brings up a point where he heard a coin flip toss that whoever wins the toss loses the Super Bowl. Roland, that's actually, if you go back to 2014,
right?
Since then, every team that's won the coin toss ended up losing the Super Bowl. So I mean, whether it's a fluke or not, it's actually panned out the last 14, 15, 16, 17, 8 years. It's just one of those weird things that pops up. Also, Nathan gives us breaking news that IUPUI is trying to get the hot dog vendor a tryout.
Well, I think that you figure they have a culinary science course there. Maybe they can quickly get them into that and get them in there.
And Elliot, I agree with parlaying the Heat and Carolina. I think that one should pan out pretty well. I like Miami over New Orleans, and we talked about Carolina and Boston. Boston's going to be in trouble without 2/3 of their top line, especially since they rolled with them against Pittsburgh the other night.
You got the Chris King seal of approval there, buddy. That's good.
Sure, Roland. You can wait until the coin flip and then put a live bet in and see who wins the coin toss and then bet against them. Why not?
Anything is possible.
With our luck, the coin will end up landing straight up because it'll get stuck in the grass.
Right. And both sides will have to defer.
Or we'll have that issue like we had in the Thanksgiving game in '98 or '97 when Jerome Bettis called heads and the ref said he called tails, and then they lost the game.
Right. Oh man. Well, before we gotta pick things up here. We will. But before we get to that, too, for the money for the show and our menu, let's talk one more time about our buddies at Caesars, okay? Caesars Sportsbook, with their new mobile app, and it's very important that you must do that bet off the mobile app, has a fun promotion just for those of you who like us here at Winners and Whiners, and that special promotion is this. They're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 and use promo code WINNERS. So WINNERS right there, and that's spelled interestingly. Be sure to spell it correctly. It's in the show box below, so no excuse not to spell it right because we're giving you the ability. So we're not playing spelling bee here. You can do it. So all you have to do to get that deal, which is a good deal because they're going to take your first deposit and they're going to match it, okay, with a free bet all the way up to $1,500. All you have to do is put $50 in your account and use the promo code WINNERS, and you are in good shape, okay? Now, as we say, always here, you have to be 21 years of age to make that purchase, that bet, and always wager responsibly. Okay? Okay. So, Chris, we got a dig, buddy. We're gonna take a deep breath and go flying through our final three situations here as we go two for the money.
Right. We talked about Memphis over Detroit. That one's pretty much a no-brainer considering the way the Pistons have played basketball. Now they traded away half their bench. Not that those guys were great, but Memphis should take care of business. We got the Capitals over the Canadians. I think Washington will bounce back and ruin Martin St. Louis' debut as a coach in the National Hockey League just because Montreal's a train wreck mixed with a dumpster fire sprinkled with 3 Mile Island. They're the worst team in the league by a far margin, and it's not even close. Murray State, I expect to beat Tennessee State handily. Like I said, they beat them by 23 already this season. They should get the win here again. And Carolina over Boston. We talked about how the Hurricanes are in good shape health-wise. The Bruins minus 2/3 of their top line. Going to be a tough night for them.
Yep,
also, breaking news again from John saying IUPUI's bus just ran out of gas while at a gas station that had no gas.
Well, okay, they're pushing their way down down to Indianapolis. So, all right. So 4 for the show.
Right. Morehead State, I'm taking them plus 10 over Belmont. I'm a little worried about Casey Alexander's team. Belmont, they've been winning games, but they've been winning ugly. Having to come back from down 20 to beat Tennessee Tech last Saturday was not impressive. Well, I mean, it was impressive they came back. They didn't play impressive basketball for 30-plus minutes. Then they struggled for a while against Austin Peay before putting them away. 10 points seems like a lot against Morehead State. We talked about Morehead State's 11-1 in the conference. I like to think that they can hang close enough, even going on the road, to get the win here. Not to mention, in the first meeting between these teams, Morehead State took an 83-74 outright win at home back on January 20th. Take the points and the Eagles there. We'll get to Gonzaga in a minute because everybody loves the point spread on that game. Cleveland State -9.5 over UIC. Jim, UIC becoming the third team to be banned from conference postseason tournaments. The Horizon League booted them from the tournament because they're planning on moving to the Missouri Valley, I think it is, after this season. So they'll join James Madison in the CAA and Stony Brook in the America East, the teams that will not play in the postseason tournament. So tough break for them. It could be a revenge game for Belmont, but I just don't think they can win by double digits. Like I said, I watched that game against Tennessee Tech, and having to come back from 20 against a team that was 5-17 just didn't impress me all that much. I like Pittsburgh plus or -1.5, or if you want to go with the money line, it's -220 over Ottawa, and the Heat over the Pelicans. We talked about that game already. I think that it's going to be an interesting one, but I think that even with McCollum, New Orleans doesn't have the kind of depth that they need to deal with a Heat team that is very good in that regard. To Jennifer's question about Purdue and Michigan, the money line has Purdue at -170. They're going off as a 3.5-point favorite. I know the Wolverines are at home at the Chrysler Center for this one. But, I just watched Purdue take care of a very good Illinois team, winning by 16 at home. And they beat Michigan last week at home. I know Michigan might be looking for revenge, but I also look at the fact that Michigan struggled to beat Nebraska at home early last week, where they were down double digits in the first half before winning by 6. And then they struggled on the road at Penn State the other day, winning by 1, 58-57. I think Purdue is that one.
It's not the, Fab Five playing in Michigan.
Right. It's definitely not. And as the Hurricanes puck line, I think that Carolina will probably win by 2, especially without Marchand and Bergeron. It puts too much pressure on Pasternak and a bunch of underachieving guys in that regard.
All right, let's fly over to the menu, my friend. Shot in the dark.
Yeah, we got Delaware over Northeastern. This game's in Delaware. Northeastern is 0-8 or 0-9 on the road. I know they're coming off a win the other day. Like John said, they beat Towson, but that game at home. This one's not. So look for Delaware there. Ohio is going to bounce back from a loss to Toledo in the middle of top teams in the MAC as they get to face a scrub team in Central Michigan. Now, of course, I called Central Michigan a bunch of scrubs. Watch them come out and shoot 90% from the field and 88% free and win by 70. But I don't expect that to happen. Gonzaga. I saw an article the other day on Ken Palm about how Gonzaga is beating up the West Coast Conference at a historic rate. They're outscoring their competition by, I think it's like 29 points a game. That includes that win over BYU on Saturday. I know Pacific hung tough against USC, which is a disappointment on so many levels. But I don't think they're going to hang here against Gonzaga in Spokane. The Bulldogs can move back to number 1 in the rankings more than likely as long as they don't get upended here. I look for them to absolutely obliterate Pacific and win convincingly at home. I mean, let's face it, the cover that Pacific had the other day against USC was their first cover on the road this season. Ken Palm has them projected to win by 35. Could get worse than that. Arizona -6.5. They're going to go on the road to Frio Court and Pullman against Washington State. I'm surprised the line's that low. I mean, Washington State, they played some good basketball, but they did struggle to beat Cal the other day. I think Arizona, they shrugged off a slow start against Arizona State to get the win. I think they'll do that again, take care of Washington State. Tampa Bay, Colorado, you got a chance for some real offensive fireworks there. I look for that to go over 6. There's just too many weapons. Even with Vasilevsky and Kemper and net, there's just too many weapons to slow down. Columbus and Buffalo, I look to go over 6 for different reasons. In this case, it's not because the offense is great, it's because the goaltending is terrible. Let's face it, Buffalo's played about 35 different goalies this year, and Columbus wishes they had 35 goalies to play because the ones they have haven't been that good. The Blues, you can go puck line at +105, or you can go the rather prohibitive money line over the Devils. The Devils, sure, they beat Montreal the other day 7-1, but they tend to not follow those up here. Golden State -9.5 over the Knicks. Roland, it does concern me that they didn't score 100, but they did face a Utah team that is pretty tough on the defensive end of the floor, even without Rudy Gobert, who missed the last several games with a calf injury. And you're facing a Knicks team that's not necessarily offensively inclined. I think that the Warriors should take care of business, especially with that being at the Chase Center and the Knicks playing as poorly as we've seen them play of late. The Mavs over the Clippers. The Clippers continue to retool with Serge Ibaka. It'll be interesting to see who the Clippers left in uniform, besides the recently acquired Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Of course, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard out. You won't see Tim Hardaway or Porzingis on the Mavs, but they still got Luka Doncic, and he can do a lot of things on his own. And the Raptors play the second game of back-to-back. I look to run their win streak to 8 games. They take on the lonely Rockets. They beat the Thunder yesterday by 19. I think they'll get the win here.
Okay, that brings us to final questions. Anybody?
New Orleans. Jennifer's asking about New Orleans, Longwood, and Georgia Southern. Oh, boy. Let's see. New Orleans.
Jennifer always comes with these multiple choice questions here.
I guess Texas A&M Corpus Christi. New Orleans beat Corpus Christi on the road last week by 9. It's going to be interesting to see if they can repeat it, or if we'll see Corpus Christi play better in the second half than they did in that game. I'm kind of leaning towards New Orleans because they're playing at home here. The Privateers, they played better basketball than I think anyone would have expected. I definitely didn't expect much from them at all this year. Longwood, the Lancers. Oh, yes. Let's see. Griff Aldridge's team is on a roll. They've won 10 straight. They're 9-0 in the Big South. They get to face USC Upstate. Yes, my good old USC Upstate with Dave Dickerson here in Spartanburg. It'll be a good test for Longwood, but I think, again, playing at home is going to be a big advantage for the Lancers in that one, because USC Upstate has had their struggles on the road. They're a 500 team, but the Lancers are 12-1 at home. Look for them to prevail in that contest. And finally, Georgia Southern. Who is Georgia Southern drawn tonight? That's down in, of course, the Sun Belt. Georgia Southern and App State. App State on the road. So they're playing in Boone. App State favored by 6.5. Georgia Southern 4-7 on the road. App State 9-2 at home. App State's played some decent basketball of late. This is actually the only meeting. App State won the first meeting down in Statesboro, 52, January 22nd. I'd probably lean towards App State giving points. UIC, Cleveland State. I have Cleveland State as part of my four for the show. Give it 9.5 in that one. I think they'll come up with a win. Mount St. Mary's and Wagner. I like Wagner. Wagner's played some good basketball. They're one of those teams that's under down there in the Northeast Conference. And Euler +9. Stanford disappointed me the other day. I thought they were going to cover against UCLA. They couldn't quite pull it out. Now they play an Oregon team on the road. Oregon is inconsistent. But Stanford beat Oregon at Memphis Pavilion. I think lean towards the getting 9 points because they've hung tough. We just watched Oregon struggle to beat Utah. They only won 80-76. The Utes are terrible in conference. They're just 2-12.
Quick question from Roland.
Yeah, I would lay the points with Wagner. I just don't trust Mount St. Mary's. They're 4-8 on the road. Wagner's 8-1 at home. You look at the fact that the Seahawks have played some great basketball this season. We talked about them not against LIU. We talked about them against Central Connecticut. We talked about them against Merrimack in recent weeks. Wagner, they're good on the glass. They're good defensively. They work the ball inside. They take good quality shots. But Sheer Mason's got a good team out there. I think that you'll see Wagner win. After all, they're 2 division losses were to Seton Hall and Penn State. So you're talking about losing power conference teams. Everybody else they beat. That includes a 14-point win on the road at VCU. And we know the Rams are no slouches, especially in their own building.
By the way, Roland, in case you missed it, we did have Towson over William and Mary.
Correct.
And GASO, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Georgia Southern.
Oops, there we go.
Yeah, Iowa and Maryland. Yeah, Iowa's given 3.5. They just beat Minnesota by 12. Before that, they lost 3 out of 4. Maryland has lost 3 in a row. They lost to Indiana, Michigan State, and Ohio State. I don't think that Danny Manning's team is going to have a whole lot of luck against Iowa here, especially with Purdue losing on Sunday. Take the Hawkeyes.
Yep. All right, boys and girls. Tomorrow is Friday, and it's heading into a Super Bowl weekend. So we're going to do a Super Bowl show for you. And we're going to have a guest. And it'll be a surprise guest, not only to you, but to us as well.
It's going to be Ric Flair.
What was that?
It's going to be Ric Flair.
Could be. You never know. Stranger things can happen. But we will have a guest, as we always do on Fridays. And so if you got your questions, because we're going to do some props tomorrow, we're going to have some fun. Get your questions ready. And we'll be back here at 1:30. Now, don't forget, coming up here in about a half an hour is our buddy Scott and Scott, who are, going to have some fun back at the window on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. Don't forget that we're going to have, mark this down in the calendars, a major crossover event. That's right. The 4 of us together on Sunday from noon until 2 o'clock. We will have all kinds of special guests and fun things going on. So be sure to mark that on your calendar. Eastern, noon until 2 p.m. as we get ready for Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California. So there you go.
Real quick, yes, Duke minus 7.5 over Clemson. I don't have any faith in them here in Tigers. They've fallen apart. As far as Iowa having their best player out, no, Keegan Murray played against Minnesota. He had 24 points. Only player on the injury report from Iowa tonight is Connor McCaffrey, who barely plays anyway.
Okay. All right, boys and girls. We will see you tomorrow. Class begins at 1:30. So be here.
Be a test.
What's that?
There's going to be a test.
There will be a test. There's always a test. So, or a quiz. So have a lovely night. Got plenty of good information there. If you miss, what we just spoke about, check out the podcasts. You can find it anywhere where you get your podcasts, and it'll be up about 10 minutes after the show. So if for some reason you missed it or you couldn't be here today, not a problem. Subscribe both to the YouTube channel or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter, and you'll know when we're going to do it. And if you don't have any problem with that, if you have a problem doing it live, don't worry about it. Just subscribe to the podcast. It'll come directly to your phone every day, okay? So you can't get rid of us. If you want to have us in your life, we're there. We're omnipresent. All you got to do is hit and subscribe, and we're with you all the time, okay? So we'll see you tomorrow, 1:30 right here.
You can always reach out to me. I tend to read things. John will tell you he bothers me every day.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you. I'm usually around during the afternoon and early evenings.
There you go. All right. So you can hit up Chris, you can hit up me, but I don't know as much as he does. So by all means, head that direction. Also check out winnersandwhiners.com. As we keep telling you, that's the place to get all the information. It's also a great place to read all of Chris's good work. So for Mr. King, I'm Jim Williams. We will see you tomorrow right here on Just Parlays with Chris King. Hang on, folks. We promise. There we go.